Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I'm also testifying in favor of House Bill 5333. We've heard a lot of important testimony, and I think it's significant how many people have been speaking in favor of this bill, and nobody's speaking against it. I do understand that people commit crimes at various ages. Sometimes the crimes are serious, and I think it is important to impose some punishment to be a deterrent for this. However, if you have a 15-year-old or a 17-year-old, it's not going to make any difference as far as deterrence goes, whether you sentence them to 15 years in prison or 30 years in prison or 45 years in prison. I don't know any teenager who can plan ahead that long and who was going to say, well, if it's only going to be 15 years in prison, I'm going to commit the crime, but if it's 30 years in prison, I'm not going to. That's not how any teenager thinks. If teenagers could plan ahead that well, it would be a lot easier to bring up children. It doesn't make any difference as far as deterrence goes to deny teenagers the chance of parole for what they did when they were teenagers. I do understand that there is a need to punish people, but still I think that has to be balanced against the issue of whether what this person who committed a crime when they were a kid has grown up to be, and what they can do, and how they can be beneficial in society, instead of rotting in jail where they're no use to society and their life isn't any use to hardly to themselves either. Now, I know the judges try to do a good job when they're sentencing people. They do try to evaluate what the crime is like, but what the judges can't take into account is what the criminal is going to be like when they grow up and become more of an adult. And that's something that only the parole board is able to evaluate, because the judge doesn't see the adult that this person is going to grow into. The parole board is the only institution that has the ability to actually weigh the severity of the crime, and in comparison to the kind of person that the criminal has become, they have the ability to actually see whether the person has grown past their crime, whether the person is any longer a danger to society. The judge who's sentencing has no ability to see whether the person will still be a danger to society. So I think it's good to put that power in the hands of the parole board, because not everybody necessarily changes, but some people do change very much from what they were when they were 15 or 17. And if we give the parole board the authority to do that, it does help people who have grown out of the crime they committed as a kid. It also enables some of the people to, as they've been talking about, to be on the outside, teaching people about what they've learned since they've become more of a mature adult and how they've grown out of their crime. So I think for those reasons, it's good to make sure that someone who has the chance to weigh what the person has become as an adult should have the authority to review the sentence after the possibility of deterrence has already been expired. It's no longer a question of deterrence. The parole board is in a position to make that decision well. So for that reason, I'm supporting this bill. Thank you.